It has begun. This morning in Tehran, this evening in Washington, the United States and Israel are conducting joint military strikes on Iran. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiating posture. This is active, ongoing combat. And we are going to walk through everything we know right now carefully, because the next hours and days will determine the shape of a conflict that has been building for months and whose consequences no one can fully predict. Here is what has been confirmed on the record by multiple independent news organizations within the last hour. President Donald Trump announced in a video message on February 28, 2026, that the United States has begun what he described as major combat operations in Iran. His exact words, "A short time ago, U.S. military began major combat operation in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating threats from the Iranian regime." He described the campaign as massive and ongoing. He said American lives may be lost. He told the Iranian people, "Take over your government. The hour of your freedom is at hand." Simultaneously, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed that the Israeli Defense Forces had launched what he called a preemptive attack on Iran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the joint action aimed to remove what he called an existential threat and praised Trump for historic leadership. The operation has been given a name, Operation Shield of Judah. According to a U.S. official cited by Reuters, the attack was planned for months, with the launch date decided weeks ago, meaning this was not a spontaneous decision made in response to any single event. The attacks were described by two U.S. officials, quoted by CNN, as not a small strike. They are being carried out by air and by sea. Multiple explosions have been reported across Tehran. The strikes have hit a district near the offices of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, according to Reuters, as well as areas of central Tehran, and separately in Qom, Kermanshah, Isfahan, and Karaj. Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei has been evacuated to a secure location. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has already launched its first retaliatory wave of missiles and drones. The IRGC struck the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. Qatar intercepted 2 Iranian missiles. Explosions were heard in Abu Dhabi. Shelter alerts went off across the Gulf. The United States ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, urged American citizens in Israel to take immediate shelter upon hearing sirens. Israel has closed its airspace and declared a nationwide state of emergency. The blast radius of this conflict, within hours of its beginning, already extends across multiple countries and the entire Gulf. Now let's talk about how we got here, because the story of the past 6 weeks is essential context for understanding what is happening tonight. Protests erupted across Iran beginning December 28, 2025. By mid-January, human rights organizations estimated that anywhere between 400 and 6,000 protesters had been killed and more than 40,000 detained. The U.S. government issued warnings. Trump called on Iranians to keep protesting, saying help is on its way. Meanwhile, the U.S. military began assembling what analysts at the time described as the largest concentration of air and naval assets in the region since the opening of the Iraq War in 2003. 2 carrier strike groups, the USS Gerald R. Ford, departed Crete on February 26th, heading for the Israeli coast. 2 Patriot batteries deployed to Jordan. THAAD missile defense systems placed at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. The military buildup was not subtle. Indirect negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, mediated by Oman, led on the American side by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, continued through the buildup. Talks were held in Muscat, then Geneva. After the Geneva round on February 26th, the Omani mediator claimed significant progress. The Iranian foreign minister said progress had been good. On Friday, Trump told reporters he was not happy with the talks. The State Department authorized non-emergency diplomatic staff and their families to leave the U.S. Embassy in Israel, saying they should consider departing while commercial flights are available. At least a dozen other countries, including Australia, India, Brazil, Singapore, and 6 European nations, issued evacuation advisories for Iran and the surrounding region. China's state media told Chinese nationals in Iran to evacuate. That evacuation warning from Beijing is worth noting because it tells you something about what China knew was coming. Which brings us to China. Because this is a question you are asking, and the answer requires precision. China is not officially at war with Iran's side. China has no mutual defense treaty with Iran. During the June 2025 Operation Midnight Hammer strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, China declined to do anything beyond issue diplomatic statements condemning the attacks as violations of international law. Beijing's formal public position has consistently been that diplomacy is the only path and that all parties should exercise restraint. That is the official position. China's state media told its own citizens to leave Iran before tonight's strikes. That is not the behavior of a country that intends to fight. But China's unofficial role in the events leading to tonight is documented and serious. The U.S. Air Force's own China Aerospace Studies Institute has confirmed that China intercepted planetary mixer shipments to Iran. Components needed for solid-fuel ballistic missiles were being shipped from Chinese suppliers before the U.S. Navy stopped one such shipment in the Indian Ocean in November 2025. China and Iran are reportedly near finalizing a deal for CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles. A Chinese naval surveillance vessel, the Dayang Yihao, has been shadowing the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group in the Arabian Sea since January. Chinese commercial satellites published high-resolution imagery of U.S. THAAD deployments in Jordan, imagery that Iran's state media then used to threaten American forces. China signed a trilateral strategic pact with Russia and Iran in January 2026 for political cooperation and economic integration, and not a mutual defense treaty, but a signal. The Hudson Institute analysis is clear. China has been, in its words, quietly helping Iran withstand U.S. pressure while championing diplomacy rhetorically. China does not want Iran to fall. China does not want a nuclear Iran. And China tonight is watching from a position of calculated distance, providing intelligence, technology, and economic lifelines to Tehran while maintaining the diplomatic cover of neutrality. The strikes are ongoing. The retaliation has begun. The diplomatic window, which was already narrow, has almost certainly closed for now. We will keep updating as this develops. Stay with us.